Allison Morris was in court. Allison, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
So this witness was a former partner of Natalie McNally. We'll go back to yesterday when he started his evidence. It was revealed in court that he was arrested last week on suspicion of making threats to kill a woman that he had been seeing at the time of Natalie McNally's death. We'll get to that as we go further along. What did he say about the nature of his relationship with Natalie at the time of her death?
So this witness has an anonymity. There's an order in place that we can't name him, and that is for the protection of others. So that is as it stands. So just for, I suppose, the purposes of this, we will call him the witness. It's maybe the best way to refer to him, just so people know who I'm speaking about. So the witness said that he had dated Natalie McNally for over a year. They'd met on Tinder, on the dating app, in the summer of 2019. And then he had moved in with her fairly quickly. He had lived in her house in Lurgan, the house where she was later found murdered. And that around sometime after that, about a year or so after that, he was offered a housing executive house flat in Dunmurry. And so he decided to move out. I think he said it was too good an opportunity to turn down, and that Natalie wasn't particularly happy about this. She didn't want him to move out. He said she liked him living there. And that he then moved out and then quite quickly started a new relationship with someone else. As we know, at the time of Natalie's death, she was 15 weeks pregnant to Stephen McCullagh, who currently stands charged with her murder. And she had moved on with Mr McCullagh. The witness had moved on with another woman who was living with him at the time, but they continued to keep in touch. A lot of that, those conversations, a lot of the messages were emails at the start, and we do know that in the last 2 days of Natalie's life there were also some WhatsApp messages, and they continued right on until that Sunday, the Sunday that police believe she was murdered that evening. Her body was found the next day, and there's discussions about the World Cup match that was taking place that day. She loved Messi, who was playing for Argentina, and they were messaging about that. So there was messages exchanged in that way. There were also messages that were read into evidence that were of a highly sexual nature. And, you know, I must stress that the witness did say, while he wasn't proud of those messages and while they were uncomfortable to look at, given the circumstances we are now, they were two consenting adults, and these were consensual messages that were exchanged between the two of them. He last had said he met up with Natalie McNally in October of 2022. On that occasion, he had been sending her messages suggesting that they meet up and have sex, and he went to her Lurgan home. He said after that encounter that Ms McNally was raging at him. It was very quick. He said he was only there for around 10 minutes, and that he knew that she was raging and she was upset with both him and herself. I think it exactly said it was heartbroken. The last time I saw Natalie, she was lying on her bed on her side, and I could tell she was raging at me. I'd come around and had sex, and then I was away. That memory of the last time seeing her, I wish it was something nicer than her looking annoyed at me, annoyed at herself. I definitely took advantage of Natalie, he said. I feel horrible about it. And he spoke of Natalie's nature and her kindness, and the fact that if he asked her for help, he knew that she always would, because that was just the kind of person she was.
And he did lash out at Stephen McCullagh in court.
He did. He said that Natalie, and he has repeatedly said this throughout his evidence, that Natalie was his best friend, that she was the nicest girl ever, was how he described her. He said she had helped him so much. I said I feel horrible. I wish it'd been better to her. And that at one stage he said, during his evidence, he said, Natalie was my best friend and you killed her, you. And then he said the C word. At this stage, he was warned by the judge about his conduct while in court. And there has been several warnings from the judge, Mr Justice Kinney, throughout this as the witness has sort of deviated off, I suppose, on tangents. And he's been told a few times to answer the questions that are asked of him. But also, he has been warned and told that he has the right as a witness not to incriminate himself in any other criminality. And this is, by, just to make things clear, not criminality attached to Natalie McNally's murder. This is just about other events. And his evidence now is in its full second day, and he is expected to give more evidence tomorrow, which will be Wednesday, until lunchtime tomorrow, and that should bring an end to the witness's evidence in this case.
He accused Stephen McCullagh of the murder again. He said that he knew he hadn't done it, but he looked at Mr McCullagh and said he done it. A blind person could see that. And again, he reiterated that he knew he hadn't done it, and he said the truth will always come out. He initially thought that Natalie had sent detectives to his flat when they were coming to make inquiries.
So what he has told the court is that he had been off work for a few days and he was due back into work on Tuesday morning. He arrived into work early on Tuesday morning and he said that he was not allowed, or it was frowned upon to use your phone in work because you had quotas to fill. But at about 9:30, that he got a break and that he got a tea break and he looked at his phone. And at that stage, he had a message from his then partner, the woman who was living with him, who said, there are detectives here. It's something to do with Natalie. They had been exchanging messages the previous day and the Saturday as well. He was using a Nintendo subscription that belonged to Ms McNally and she had cancelled it. And he had messaged her asking had she cancelled it. And there was this exchange of messages and she had said to him, I'm never going to be happy being second best. Enjoy the rest of your night. That had got, I think what he called one stage slabbering. There was some messages between the two of them. And he told the court that he thought that as a result of that she had rang police about him. He said he texted Natalie at this stage saying, why the F have you sent detectives to my flat for? And said that because there had been a bit of slabbering, and they're his words, not mine, between the two, I thought she'd sent detectives to my flat to get me in trouble. I did not know she was dead at this point. At this stage, the man then says he received a Snapchat message from one of Natalie's neighbours who he had stayed in contact with after he had moved out of Silverwood Green. She sent him a message saying, have you heard about Natalie? And he said there was a sad face emoji attached to it. He replied, no, why? And he said the message that was returned was, she has been murdered.
And we'll touch a bit later about when the detectives came to his flat, what happened before that and during that process. Yeah. But he was cross-examined about his relationship with Natalie's dog.
Yes, he knew the dog. He was familiar with the dog, and the dog actually was the pup of one of his dogs. So he had known it very well. He had found it too difficult to keep two dogs in his small flat and he had asked Natalie to take one of them. He actually said to the court, when I spoke about how I took advantage of her, this is probably a really good example because I knew if I asked her to take the dog, she would, even though she had pets of her own as well. He was asked about Natalie's habit of leaving the door open and he said she would often have left her front door open. She'd have been the opposite of him in that respect. And was the dog familiar with him? At this stage, he said to the defence, Casey, who is representing Stephen McCullagh, he said, I know where you're going with this. And then he said that he theorised basically that his familiarity with the dog meant that would not attack him. And that's when he said, but it wasn't me in Natalie's house that night, it was him. And he pointed towards McCullagh.
And then that point, the defence barrister asked if the witness had trouble with anger control. How did he respond to that?
He said, I've been extremely stressed for the last few years. I've been accused of a murder, something that I didn't do. The defence asked him about other ex-partners, in particular the woman he was with when Ms McNally died. The defence barrister, Mr John Kearney, KC, asked if he had ever grabbed her, ever throttled her, ever struck her, ever laid a finger on her. And to each of those questions, the witness replied no. He was also asked about WhatsApp message he had sent to his partner, now ex-partner, last weekend, alleging that he had threatened to strangle her. And the witness said that there was a load of slabbering going on from both parties, admitting that he was arrested the following day, but he said he had made it clear that he didn't want to be with her anymore and that he had blocked and then unblocked her. Asked if he had messaged her and told her he was tempted to go to her house and kick her head in because he hated her so much, he replied, potentially, yeah. This is his words again. He said, there was toxic slabbering going on. That's why I had her blocked to stop all this. I've got wee angry thumbs that send wee stupid messages. The stupid thumbs say stupid things, to which Mr. Kearney replied, well, those wee angry thumbs are connected to wee angry wrists and ultimately to an angry brain. Isn't that right?
And then he was asked if he had a problem with anger management again. He said he could get extremely wound up and say stupid things, but he denied threatening to kill his ex-partner or physically assaulting her. So going forward to when he was told the detectives were at his house, he said that he had reset his phone to factory settings when he was told that they were there. Did he give exact reasoning for that?
Well, he did say that he had cleared his phone to factory settings when he was told detectives were going to be at his home in connection with Natalie McNally's murder investigation. Now, bear in mind what his story the previous day was. He received a message from his ex-partner. He received a message saying, police are here, something to do with Natalie. Then he gets a Snapchat message from a neighbour saying, have you heard about Natalie? She's been murdered. So at this stage, he's racing home to his flat where the detectives are. And he said that he stopped a short distance from his home and he cleared his entire phone back to factory settings. John Kearney KC, again, who is acting for McCullagh, asked about why he would wipe his phone when he was told that detectives were at his County Antrim flat waiting to speak to him. And he said that because he had a big bag of weed in his house. The witness then said that he had thought that detectives would smell this when they were in his house and that they would seize his phone, and that he claimed he had messages on his phone that were drugs related, specifically related to weed, as he described it.
And he said he shouldn't have done it, but he was worried they'd want my phone. Now, the last bit of evidence from today, there was an interview tape played to the jury. What was in it? I know it was a minor piece of evidence.
It was very, very short. It was an interview tape of last week. It was the witness in Musgrave Police Station. He was being questioned by a female police officer in connection to sending malicious messages, or allegedly sent malicious messages to his ex-partner, and he repeated to the detective a version of what he had said in court, that he had blocked her, that she'd asked him to unblock her, that she had then said things to him of a nature that had wound him up. I think he said his exact words were, she poked the bear and he bit, and she got a reaction from him. He claimed that he had never physically assaulted her or hurt her, but did admit that he had been sending her messages the previous week.
And what can we expect in the coming days then?
So tomorrow we're going to have another half a day's evidence from the witness, and that should end his evidence. It has been quite lengthy, but he, bear in mind he was an ex-partner of Natalie, so a lot of what was going on here, and they remained in contact right up until the day of her death, so it was relevant. After that, we're expecting to have the ex-partner of the witness,
Allison Morris. Thank you.